Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
Hello and welcome back. You're listening to The Blockchain Show. I'm your host, Ethan Kinderconnect. This is episode number 194. Today we have a special guest. I'm speaking with Lihan Lee, the co-founder of Xangle. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for joining me. We've got a lot of interesting topics that we can get into. Maybe you could just introduce yourself a little bit to our audience and let us know how you got involved with Xangle.
Yeah, sure. My name is Lihan Lee. I'm from South Korea, and I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Xangle. Xangle is the disclosure platform for crypto, and we're currently working with over 500 crypto projects around the world. We're also working with 70 centralized exchanges around the world, too. So we are helping them to distinguish good crypto projects with the bad ones. For the last 10 years, I've been co-founder and engineer for several startups. Most of them focused on data aggregation and analysis. And back in 2017, so 3 years ago, I came into the crypto space because I was so amazed that the blockchain technology could replace the traditional way of funding and transferring ownership. After spending a year helping several crypto projects, I also saw the actual agony inside the crypto projects, especially the gap between their long-term vision and the speculative nature of the investors in the real world was a real pain for the project. So that was actually my primary motivation to start my current company and service, Xangle.
Oh, very good. This is a very valuable service, something that I think a lot of people could benefit from. We've seen, especially since 2017, a lot of scams, hacks, whatever you want to call it, different ways for people to trick other people out of their money in the cryptocurrency. I know that there's several good articles that people can look at on your website, Xangle.io. Before we get into that, maybe you could tell us a little bit about why this industry needs to adopt a standardized disclosure practice like what you guys are offering.
Sure. Let me first introduce what disclosures are. So basically, disclosures are verified and irreversible version of an official announcement. So disclosures cover a wide range of topics concerning the crypto assets and the team and the company running that crypto asset. So, for example, new partnerships, new exchange listings, warnings from exchanges to be delisted, milestone achievements in developments, new roadmap, new team members, token mints and burns, and others. So I don't remember the exact number, but it's about 30 different types of disclosures that we provide. And disclosures help crypto projects to communicate and align with their investors and exchanges more transparently and efficiently. So what we suggest is for crypto projects is to take some distance from their official chatting channel in Telegram and focus on real fundamental developments first. And along the way, they can use our disclosures to share important information that every investor should know. So once they submit their information, depending on the type, our internal research team verifies it, and then it is released from our platform. And those informations are also simultaneously distributed around to different partners, exchanges around the world. In general, it is a communication tool that allows crypto projects to really concentrate on the fundamental developments, adoption to the real world, and those kind of things that people expect from crypto projects when they invest into them. And we believe that by building a culture and a movement towards the keyword transparency and those fundamental progress, I think it will help this industry to be acknowledged as a real asset class as well. So
yeah, it's something that I've seen over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years. The more acceptance of cryptocurrencies into people's lives, traditional market shows on TV will talk about the price of Bitcoin now, when before even the big banks were kind of trying to put the brakes on it. Now they have their own blockchain projects that they're working on. I definitely think it's important to have these kind of, disclosures, and, investors in particular really should know what they're getting into. And it's not always been that clear in, cryptocurrency, blockchain startups. With everything that's going on in the U.S., in the stock market, the New York Exchange and the NASDAQ, we've seen a lot of kind of that human behavior creep back in that sometimes we see in cryptocurrencies, like the pumping and dumping of altcoins. We're seeing that with some individual stocks, like with GameStop, most notably here. Which is interesting. A lot of people in America have gotten stimulus checks from the government, whether or not, they decided to use them for their life or just, to invest. When someone's poor, a lot of times like $600 isn't going to make that much of a difference. So I think we're seeing a lot of people get into crypto and other stocks. But that behavior that we've seen most recently in the stock market and over the last 3 years in crypto, I don't think it's necessarily sustainable or healthy. I think that what you guys are solving is kind of that lack of transparency that kind of the retail investor might need, instead of going on social media and getting influenced by these big movements. They could go to a more credible source to do research. So kind of just an observation on my part. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Sure. Thanks for saying that. So as I see it, there is definitely a power shift going on from the institutional investment side to the retail. And I think the recent GME incident was kind of a tipping point that accelerates that power shift. And unfortunately, yes, there are behaviors that are at the border, whether it's something that people that helps retail investors to gain that power and being acknowledged as a real player in the financial market, or is it just as you said, it's just a pump and dump behavior between the individuals. So if the power shift goes on and if the individuals are becoming a more major player in the financial market, I think the existing regulations are very heavy to being applied to each individuals because of the decentralized nature of the retail investors. So Xangle, for example, is a service that is not really backed up by legal by the legal standards. So if any crypto project doesn't disclose information, they are not necessarily being punished by the system. But what we're trying to solve here is to utilize the reputation among the individuals for the projects and build up a real culture that makes the projects more and more accountable of the actions that they do, as well as the individual players that act based on moral standards and in terms of long-term sustainability. So it's a big experiment. But I personally haven't come up with other solutions to kind of support that power shift towards the retail investors, and other methodologies that support that movement.
Yeah, it's a complicated system, the legacy markets. In this country, a lot of people like to think it's a free market, but it's really not the case. There's a lot of government intervention, and we've seen some of the investing companies or apps step in to set limits. And that's one thing I like about cryptocurrencies is, like you mentioned, the decentralized nature. You'd have to, I don't know, shut down the internet to stop people trading crypto. And, that's a pretty big order. I don't know if any one entity can do that. Maybe the sun, if there's like a solar flare or something, wipe out all of our electronics. But it's the power shift that you mentioned. It's also there's also a technological shift happening too, and we're seeing a new generation of investors come in the fold, as they say. So exciting times, interesting times, I should say. With all that's been going on the last year globally with coronavirus and different economies going through ups and downs, people losing their jobs. I think people are, I think they're ready to kind of look at new avenues of financial growth, stability, whatever that may be. So I think this is a good time for all the exposure to cryptocurrencies and blockchain companies out there. While we're talking about kind of like the global climate of crypto and blockchain-based companies, in terms of regulations here in the U.S., I think the government always tries to catch up to technology, and they're usually behind. It's just the way things work here sometimes. I'm just curious what things are like where you are, and as a government, are people embracing this new financial, I guess, technological way to do things, or is it more of a grassroots thing?
Back in 2017, there was a huge boom here in South Korea for crypto. So before 2017, there weren't many people here in South Korea investing in Bitcoin, but in 2017 was a real boom here, and I think back then what I remember is that the government was a little embarrassed, maybe, to see so many people coming into crypto and being involved into speculative investment, speculative trading activities. The government reacted really strongly against crypto and closed all bank accounts, for example, and to prevent people to pour more money into the crypto space. So back then, there was such a boom here in South Korea. It is expected that maybe 1/5 to 1/3 of the volume traded for crypto was taking place in South Korea. So people say that because the South Korean government were so strong against crypto, and that caused the crash in 2018 to collapse the market. Over time, during the crash and the downturn of the market, during the last 2-3 years, a lot of the participants also left the market, and a lot of blockchain service providers, a lot of projects, they stopped providing their services and pursuing their objectives. So, and then since like 6 months or a year, a new generation of players also entered this market. And right now, because of the recent price increasement, people slowly gain more attraction over time about this asset. And what I see is that the population the nature of the population who are participating into crypto changed a lot as well. So I can see more and more traditional financial players being interested into crypto recently compared to 2 to 3 years ago. I can see a lot of government officials taking this crypto much more seriously than just perceiving this as a speculative gimmick. Also, in terms of regulational side, for AML and for anti-money laundering schemes, the rules are already set up. So it's just waiting to be enforced this year to next year. And in terms of tax side, for people living in South Korea, we are going to pay taxes starting from next year, which is slightly bad news for investors who are making profit, but it's also good news for the crypto industry itself, because it's sort of an acknowledgement that the government kind of gives to the industry that it is legitimate. Comparing the South Korean regulations to the U.S., for example, I can see that the U.S. market has more understanding in this in this asset class. But in terms of speed, I think there is not really much difference between the two entities, the U.S. and the South Korean.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. We have a lot of the same motivations as humans. A lot of people get into cryptocurrencies trying to make money. I think it's brought a lot of attention to the space, but kind of at the core is the utility behind what these tokens represent. There's a lot of services out there that are actually building something useful, but that kind of gets overshadowed by the fact of people treating cryptocurrencies like stocks, which that's fine if people want to buy it when it's low and sell it when it's high. That's definitely more power to them. But 2017, we saw a lot of ICOs, and I would say most, I don't know if that's a stretch, were just kind of scams, really. People had a white paper and a GitHub and got people to invest, generated a lot of hype online, and then people would invest, and then a lot of people would sell, and then the people left shorthanded, kind of got stuck with this token that's worth like fractions of a penny. And we're kind of seeing that happen again for some of these things, some of these coins. For the everyday crypto investor just getting into it, be careful, do your research. I'm just kind of curious what in South Korea, what crypto investors might be looking into, or what the area of interest might be, if you have any insight there.
Yeah, so South Korean crypto markets is quite different from the Western countries. So it's very different from U.S. market in that if you see the distribution of the investment between different types of crypto assets, crypto projects, I think for U.S. investors, most of their investments are being made into Bitcoin and Ethereum and other major platform projects. So whereas in South Korea, crypto has been perceived as an alternative tool for VC investment too. So a lot of startups, a lot of companies that are even being listed in the stock exchange issue tokens to boost up their services. So the altcoin market is very, very, very active here in Asia especially in South Korea. So if you compare Japan and South Korea, Japanese people are more tend to invest into major coins. And also because that's because the Japanese government doesn't allow to list small types of tokens even into crypto exchanges. But there is definitely a culture here in South Korea where trading smaller market cap tokens, it's much more active here. So in terms of being scammed from projects, the risk here in South Korea is therefore much higher than the U.S. investors, because of course if you invest in projects that has a higher market cap and it's well known among well known in the public, the risk is much lower than when you invest in smaller market cap crypto. So maybe that's the reason why a disclosure platform is started here in South Korea. And because of our experience, this might overall help the people in US as well, because there is still a lot of risk too in those projects that have a larger market cap, because the fact that you have a large market cap doesn't always mean that the project is illegitimate or safe.
Right. Yeah. The website is really great at Xangle.io.
Thanks.
Yeah, man. It's fun. I love stats. I love all the information. I mean, anybody can go on there and just look at, Bitcoin, for instance, and then click on disclosure, and there's just tons of information that you don't really see anywhere else. Most places like exchanges, you get a price and a buy option. I mean, you can even look at on-chain information. It's really amazing, to be honest with you. And there's the blog is fantastic, and I see that you guys have got some DeFi functionality. But I wanted to talk about some of the other services. We talked a little bit about disclosures, but I don't think you might have mentioned the credibility rating.
Yes. So we started as a disclosure service, and as you mentioned, people were just used to just price only. And after a couple of months, we found out that our disclosures are a little bit too difficult for people to understand, because we have all these fundamental information being submitted from all those hundreds of projects. We now have a foundation that we can use to evaluate those projects in terms of long-term sustainability. We made some market research of those. There were existing rating service out there in various rating services around the world, but most of them we found out is that they were much more focused on the marketing capabilities of the project rather than the long-term sustainability. So what we do is we evaluate those projects' credibility based on a number of objective factors, such as the company and the team, investor relations and disclosure practices, financial sustainability. That's very important. Token governance, business performance, and also technical audits. Those ratings are actually quite valuable to the market and to projects, especially for those who really perform well. So we try to help the market participants to distinguish between the good ones and the bad ones. If you look at the homepage of those projects, for everyday investors, it's really hard to distinguish between the good and the bad ones, because even the bad ones try to build a really fancy website that promises a lot of things. But what really matters is the delivery over time, and our ratings try to help investors to understand much easier whether certain projects are keeping their promises and from those who are not. So, and the call for those credibility ratings among crypto projects has been really growing rapidly recently. So, and partly because of the expected regulations to come, and the exchanges are demanding the projects that are more accountable. So verified our list of credibility ratings is becoming more and more important for projects to get listed. So that kind of was the reason for the recent high demand for our rating services. We try to help not only those crypto exchanges, but also different kind of institutions that wants to distinguish the good ones and the bad ones, and kind of relieve their efforts for their rigorous due diligence. So that's our service.
Oh, that's awesome, man. It seems like you've had a lot of experience in technology, solving a lot of problems through kind of like a data first approach. If you wouldn't mind just telling the audience just a little bit more about the company and Xangle and how that ties into Xangle.
Yeah, so Xangle is the company name. If you swap the cross with an X, you come up with Xangle, it was just our service name. So we provide different data points that investors need for their long-term investments. So we are a service for those hodlers rather than the traders. So the disclosures and the credibility ratings are a part of them. We also provide price data. We publish different research materials, evergreen articles, and also Market Watch, which is kind of a curated news channel of the very different things that are going on in the crypto space. So what we're trying to achieve is, as I said, it's a kind of a movement towards a keyword transparency and long-term sustainability of the industry, because often because it's related to investment and trading, most of the people tend to think this crypto thing and blockchain is something that you can use to make money really quick. But if you take a deeper look into this space, it's very, very much more than just a tool for making money quick. So it's a very fundamental phenomenon. I mentioned the power shift from the institutions to the retail investors, and the blockchain is the infrastructure that will support the movement towards the decentralization of those powers. So, but it's a long process. I think it will take more than 10 years starting from now on to achieve that goal. And there are different building blocks that you need to make it function. And once I started, I found out that there wasn't really a credible information channel or gateway for investors that are aligned to that a long-term movement. So we started with our disclosures back in 2018 when I told people around me that we're going to build a disclosure service, but we don't have any support from the government legally. Most of the people said to me that that's impossible, but because I think that our messages resonated with the industry, with the exchanges, with the projects. One by one, we were successful to persuading those projects to submit their disclosures to us, and then especially in South Korea, it also resonated among the retail investors. A lot of people appreciate our service and take advantage of those information that we provide. And hopefully, in several countries in Asia, in Japan, in Southeast Asia, the number of audience has been growing quite quickly over the last few months, and hopefully we kind of manage to be the standard globally as well. So we would appreciate American investors to come to our side and take benefit of all the information that we're trying to provide.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's really a good thing you guys are working on. I'm really impressed. I encourage anyone. Again, it's Xangle.io. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's like for some reason I make a Z sound when it's supposed to be an X. I've noticed that about myself.
Your pronunciation is perfect.
Okay, thank you. So that brings me to, you're talking about the website. There's a lot of good reports. One of them that I was reading was Crypto Investor Scam Report, over $16 billion stolen from investors since 2012. That's a lot of money. From my understanding, not all of those perpetrators have been identified, or maybe they have been and they're just under investigation. But let's talk about that, because it looks like most of the scams were in 2017, 2018. I definitely remember reading about plenty of instances where people lost a lot of money. But, it looks like it's on the rise again. In 2020, it went up, not nearly as much. But what are some of the dangers out there? And, what are some of the solutions that you hope to help people with?
Yeah, so over 16 billion since 2012, so over the last decade or so. Those numbers are a really conservative number because we intentionally left out a lot of projects, incidents that are at the border of being a scam or not. So those numbers came from 136 different scams. So if you can imagine how many scam attempts were back in 2017 or 2018, you can easily come up with a much greater number than those. So it's a really big problem, and it's a big obstacle for the industry being acknowledged as a real asset class. And for those projects that we have listed in our reports, more than 500 people have faced criminal charges in their roles in crypto-related scams. And the combined sentences of all those individuals punished is over 160 years. So there were really serious things going on. Hopefully, we are at the beginning of the next bull run in this industry. So hopefully, we won't repeat the same mistakes we faced in the last bull run. So, and there are certain things that the industry needs to do to prevent those scams. So one is the transparency and disclosure things that we try to help the industry to make it better than 2 years ago. Also, from the projects, they need to have a better IR practices. So we need to build a culture of good IR in crypto, and it would set the baseline for how crypto companies communicate with their investors. So, as I said, don't get involved into the chatting channels demanding for pump and dump information. Just focus on the fundamental progress, and then communicate really briefly about the real accomplishment with their investments. That's the advice that we try to give. And also, we need to have a system for education and awareness for investors, especially for those outside crypto and finance or even technology. Often a lot of innocent investors are getting prey of those projects, luring them with all those technical gimmicks. So we need to have the responsibility of educating the world of how crypto works, and also we need to have a kind of culture or a system that holds scammers accountable. So while some of the bad actors are being punished and even go to jail, there are still others not being punished and not being caught and continue their shady practices. So we need to come up with a system and culture to hold those scammers accountable and expel the bad actors to protect innocent investors falling into prey of those bad actors.
Yeah, very well said there. I really appreciate you taking the time to explain that to us. I think it's important, especially nowadays, as more and more people are joining the space, that they keep these things in mind. So once again, the website is Xangle.io. I just wanted to say thank you and, give you an opportunity to leave our audience with anything that you would like to, in case there's anything that I've missed.
No, thank you for the opportunity to introduce what we do. I'm really looking forward to getting more engagement for the U.S. investors with our service. So, yeah, feel free to access our website and take the benefit of those things that we try to provide. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, very good. My pleasure. It's been great talking to you, Lihan. I wish you all the best, and thanks for coming on the Blockchain Show.
Thanks a lot.